Welcome back, my friends. We got something much different today. This is just a painting that I like a lot. It's by Matejko. Excuse the pronunciation. I'm not very good with Polish names. It's called Astronomer Copernicus, or Conversations with God. And here's the Wikipedia page for it. We'll just run through this real quick in case you're not familiar with the artist or Copernicus. Astronomer Copernicus, or Conversations with God, is a painting by the Polish artist Jan Matejko, completed in 1873 in the collection of the, how do I pronounce? It's pronounced Jagiellonian. It depicts Nicolaus Copernicus observing the heavens from a balcony in a tower with the cathedral in Frombork in the background. Again, you're going to have to just forgive the pronunciations. I'm just an American guy. I'm not going to be great with this European stuff. The canvas was purchased from a private owner by public subscription in Poland and hangs in the aula, Great Hall of the Collegium Novum of the university. Matejko produced the painting as part of a series of paintings intended to capture and represent key moments in the history of Poland to inspire the public. Matejko began work on the painting in 1871 in preparation for the 400th anniversary of Copernicus's birth. He used research materials available at Jagiellonian University and made several preparatory pencil drawings and 2 oil sketches prior to executing the painting. He began work on the canvas in summer of 1872 in the cramped conditions of his old apartment in Krakow. This he recorded in a parodic self-portrait. The definitive work was completed in a new studio in 1873. In the event, the organizers of Copernicus's quadricentennial anniversary in Krakow were indifferent to Matejko's endeavors and did not plan to exhibit the painting during the original festivities. Meanwhile, the town council of Torun, sorry for the pronunciations, Copernicus's hometown, then under German rule, approached Matejko with a view to purchasing it. He, however, refused their offer, possibly out of national pride, and opted instead to organize his own exhibition in Krakow. He was able to exhibit the picture in February 1873 at Wielopolski Palace, then the Krakow City Council building. Profits from the event were donated to charity. The painting had a mixed reception. Later that year, it was shown in Vienna. In March, the inhabitants of Krakow decided to buy the painting and raise the necessary 12,000 zlotys, sorry for the pronunciation, and donated it to the Jagiellonian University. It has been on public display in the university's Collegium Novum ever since. I would love to go see it in person. As of May 2021, the painting has been loaned to the Jagiellonian University authorities for a period of 4 months to London's National Gallery for a temporary exhibition, and is the first work by any Polish artist to be exhibited there. The painting depicts the exalted cleric and scientist Nicolaus Copernicus. He was a canon of Frombork Cathedral, kneeling as he observes the heavens during a transition from night to dawn. He is high up on a balcony, supposedly in his observatory near the cathedral in Frombork, surrounded by various astronomical instruments. By his side is his own heliocentric model drawn on a large flat board, based on an actual illustration from his De Revolutionibus. The scene likely portrays the moment of revelation when Copernicus becomes convinced of his discovery. The main features of the composition include 16th century costume and use of objects as part of symbolic narrative. There is also symmetrical focal point with the atmosphere, perspective around the subject, and radial balance of light arranged around the central element, and dramatic contrasts with dark colors on the periphery. I think one reason I'm drawn to this painting so much personally is what they just described here, that it includes a lot of common 16th century art trends. These particular trends they describe, I really like this style in like my photography and stuff. Everything it's describing here, radial balance of light and dark colors on the periphery, and kind of a central focused subject and objects as part of a symbolic narrative. This is totally like my personal photography style. I think that's one reason I like this painting so much. Copernicus's epiphany or ecstasy is captured through the use of quasi-stage lighting. 2 individuals are known to have served as models for Copernicus. One was Dr. Henryk Lewitu, a medical practitioner and the younger brother of Polish independence activist Karol Lewitu, who tragically died in 1841, and another guy. Interpretation. The location depicted by Matejko is fictional. Modern scholars are still looking for the exact location of the Copernicus observatory and agree that Matejko's portrayal was more of a romantic vision. Whereas Matejko shows Copernicus on top of a tower, in reality his small observatory was probably at ground level, possibly in the garden of his house. Most of Matejko's notable paintings consist of large group scenes. A scene with a single individual such as this, another being Stanchik, tends to be exceptional in his oeuvre. What does that mean? Wow, I really like that one too. I've seen that before. I didn't really notice that was the same artist. That's awesome. I'm a fan of this artist. He's an awesome painter. Okay, it's an oil painting. It's 89 inches by 124 inches, so that's rather large. We'll jump into the actual painting commentary here in a second, but I'm sure most of you know exactly who Copernicus was, but if you don't, definitely the least you should do is read the Wikipedia page for Copernicus, but to keep it really short, in my own words, this book he had here, it's the seminal work on heliocentric theory of Copernicus. But there's this book which I've read, The Copernican Revolution. It's one of my favorite books I've read. It's a 1957 book by philosopher and science historian Thomas Kuhn, and it's an analysis of the Copernican Revolution. And after reading this, I had a whole different appreciation for Copernicus and like what a big deal this actually was, this moment that's depicted here in his writing of that book, and just the shift. I mean, when he published it, it wasn't accepted immediately, and it's not like science just like moved forward from there and immediately accepted it. It took a long time. So you see, it took 60 years of initial hesitation and roughly 150 to 200 years to fully accept the theory. Nowadays, we talk about people being visionaries when they understand things a few years before everyone else comes around, like Steve Jobs with the iPhone and stuff like that. But we're talking about a guy who was 200 years ahead of his time. Like, visionary is putting it lightly. That's actually incredible. Like, think of coming up with a scientific theory today that took 100 years for people to even understand and come around to. Like, that's unheard of and amazing. So this video is not about Copernicus himself and the Copernican Revolution book. It's going to be about this painting. What you come to accept from this is that this is one of the most pivotal moments in, I would say, like all of human understanding, in all of human history, in all of science history, and the repercussions that cascaded from the Copernican Revolution. It touched everything. I mean, obviously before the Enlightenment and stuff, it's all about religion dominating everything. And personally, I'm anti-religious, but I appreciate its impacts on shaping different societies and shaping our histories. And I know it has contributed some value in some measure here or there, but all these are, I just searched for religious geocentric art. And so you had the church having a monopoly before the time of Copernicus on information. I've seen this one before. This one's awesome. You had the church had a monopoly on information and what people were allowed to know. And as continues to this day, in my point of view, they're just preaching utter bullshit. So you get, these artworks that were just supposed to be blown over by the sophistication of these quasi-scientific religious artworks that reinforce how important it is that we're at the center of the universe, like the most ignorant kind of stuff. I mean, sure, on one level, like, you got to hand it to them. Like, okay, we didn't have telescopes. Like, cut them a break. Like, what are you supposed to theorize when nobody knows this stuff? Like, it's easy in retrospect to like talk about how dumb this is, but in the scientific viewpoint, like, you need to have evidence for all your claims. And this art here is just an example of how everything that comes from religion, they don't care about evidence. It's just about feeling based and creating illusions of grandeur and having a tight control on information and what you're allowed to think and what you're allowed to know. And only the church can access that stuff. And so almost in the history of mankind, the Copernican revolution is like one of the biggest middle fingers that's ever been put forward to religion, because, these religious organizations, they were not chill. It's not like you could just come out with your own theory and religious people could say, okay, that's what you think, and we'll think this. Like, no, the church was going to persecute you. Copernicus knew these ideas were controversial, and his manuscript, his theory, didn't end up getting published till the year of his death. So he was never able to be persecuted by the church. And it was something like 100 years later when Galileo came along with the telescope technology and was able to basically back up with even further proof of heliocentrism. And Galileo was persecuted by the church to his dying days for pushing that theory. One reason this was so pivotal, the foundations of so much of science that we use and have built on today really in some way were built upon this theory. For example, Newton's laws of motion, his calculus and all that. This came way after Copernicus. 1687 was when he published his Principia Mathematica. And, once we had Newtonian physics, that just blows the door open for all the observations of the cosmos and how things work together. And that still continues to this day in the scientific research that's being done. So just amazing, amazing stuff. You got to put yourself back in the shoes of somebody who's from this era, who comes from hundreds of generations of people who believed that this was the model and just accepted it and believe whatever the church taught. And everything about nature is informed by this kind of fundamental assumption. And to have somebody come along and tell you, actually, the Earth's not the center, it's groundbreaking. It's undermining the entire church, undermining the entire common wisdom of society, undermining our understanding of the motion of the heavenly bodies when we look up at night. Everyone had their own convoluted stories for why the stars moved the way they did and why the sun and the moon moved the way they did, and it just takes one guy to come along with some proof and dedication to undermine the fundamental nature of reality itself. So Copernicus is a little bit of a hero of mine. How many people in history can you say those type of things about? Really, truly, truly visionary people who were just centuries ahead and had that kind of impact on the entire world history to come. Not a lot of people that have ever existed you can say that about. But Copernicus knows what he's seeing. He knows what he saw. He's seeing the proof. He's doing the calculations. He's taking his notes. He's making the measurements. He's got his theory with the sun in the middle and the other planets and the moon. Terra, so you see the black dot for Earth. And he's out there putting in the work. He's not satisfied to just stop with the grandeur of some religious painting and just accept what the clergy says that you have to believe. He's out there alone while everybody's sleeping on the rooftop. He's staring at the stars. He's staring at the stars with his astrolabe, or whatever you want to call this device. I think it's called an astrolabe. And the Wikipedia article was saying, every object in this painting, it has it tells a narrative, has some significance. So I'm a huge Copernicus fan. He's the man. And I can just tell from this painting, if this is a good representation of his personality, that we would have been friends. If I was around at this time with my same personality today, and I found out about this guy doing this, I would be like, dude, what do I have to do to be your apprentice? Let me come up there with you. Let me take the notes for you. Let me hang out here all night. Let's solve this thing. This is very much a kind of a personality type that I relate to him with. that desire for real knowledge and rejection of things that have no evidence, and having it motivate you enough to like stay up all night thinking about it. So once again, I'm not a painter, I'm not an art historian, I am a scientist, I am a photographer, so I do know something about color and composition and stuff, but so you're not going to get a thorough art history class here, but I'm just going to react personally on a personal level to this painting. For me, this era of like 1880 approximately to 1900, or 1870 to 1900 approximately, I'm a big fan from a lot of things from this era in terms of stylistically, and so I can feel the 1870 nature of this painting coming through. I'm also a big fan of realism. I really like realism. I think, I'm a fan of all art. I like basically any form of expression. I'm backing it, but a lot of surrealism and abstract stuff gets, I think, highly overrated for what it is. I appreciate everything, but there's a special place in my heart for photorealism and hyperrealism in painting. And one reason is just the sheer skill. I mean, if you go around the world and you ask everyone to try to paint something like this, like less than 0.5% of all the people on Earth are going to approach anything near this kind of skill level when it comes to just the raw talent you need to paint something like this. So that's something I love about it. And I've got a big appreciation for European architecture, the cathedral here, and these architectural details here, the brick archway and this multi-layered door frame. Looks like a hand-carved, multi-level door frame kind of deal. But to me, these kind of traditional Western styles, they represent a certain pinnacle of human evolution of our taste, cultivating this specific kind of taste in a pre-industrialized way. Like, people used to build stuff like this because it made us feel a certain thing. People used to build crazy giant spires and these dramatic towers and these overly ornate, like, this is just a doorway on top of a building to get to the roof. Like, hardly anyone's ever even going to see this. And they took all the time to like carve this by hand out of stone and quarry this stuff and bring it out here. And this attention to detail, like, once we hit industrialization, it's all about a race to the bottom. Like, how can you do it the fastest and the cheapest? And we continually sacrificed things like fine detail, like these ceramic roof tiles here. Like, every single one of those was hand shaped with clay and then put in an oven and fired and the hand laid to create a tile roof like this. And this tin, if that's what this is, tin, it was probably hand shaped by hand. There wasn't giant industrial machinery back then in the 1600s. And so I've got a reverence for, a lot of the styles back then. And like I said, I think it's a pinnacle. I think human evolution we were going in a certain direction of pursuing different ideas in style and clothing and architecture that industrialization kind of halted or muted or made us go in a different direction of simplicity and stuff that ultimately led to modernism and all that stuff, minimalism. But to this day, I'm a fan of ornate shit. Like, if I had this chest, like I would love having this chest here that he's sitting on in my house, this ornate, hand-painted, carved chest with this awesome metal work and a big, heavy, solid wood lid. This is exactly the type of stuff I like. And people knew that when they designed stuff back then. Everyone was fully aware of that it was about the aesthetic feeling that things created and the way you felt about things, not just functional, not just minimal. And so we got my dog Copernicus. Let's take a look at that expression. That is a man who is singularly focused. That's a man who is concentrating. That's a man who's so singularly focused in what he's doing in the present moment. You can see with that hand, it's just like, it's related to the expression here, like just this feeling, like I know this feeling that is being portrayed here, and it's a feeling of being oblivious to your surroundings because you're so singularly focused. And it's interesting to me that in like meditative traditions of the East, Buddhism and Hinduism and things related to meditation, and even in the modern traditions of modern psychology and recommendations for mental well-being and stuff, like people emphasize in all those traditions, it's emphasized the value of having, like, shutting off your brain and being completely like living in the moment, and not being consumed with thoughts that don't matter about the future or the past, but being completely in the moment. And I mean, further than that, they also talk about just like shutting off thoughts entirely and just existing. But so I know clearly his mind is not empty of thoughts here. He's really working out the theory here. But I think it's super cool how you can just see this emotion that echoes a lot of what you see in, say, Hindu traditions and Eastern Indian traditions of meditation, and not being hung up on the past or the future, but being fully in the present moment. And if you've ever been like involved in, maybe you're not a scientist, but if you've ever done like cycling or rock climbing or whatever, like some kind of athletic endeavor, like these are things that really make us feel human and lock you entirely into the present moment. And it's something that we're losing in today's culture, with the culture of distraction and social media and overstimulation and overthinking. We lose this ability to just exist in the present moment. So that's one thing I love about this is what it looks like to exist purely in the moment. And so to me, it's like incredibly human. This painting is incredibly human. Like if you never saw the rest of the painting besides this crop that I have on the screen here, like this, like universally, no matter what culture you're from, you'll just recognize the humanness of this moment. And we can all identify it to some moment we had that just caught us like this with the 1,000-yard stare. And we were just like no longer aware of even being human or having a body. This is just what being completely in a moment looks like. And I also really like the loneliness it's talking about. There's no other humans anywhere in the picture. There's no animals. There's no other signs of life. Everything on here is very, everything in this painting is very hard. We got metal, you got solid wood, you got a rock hard chest, you got stone, you got brick, you got tin, you got glass. Every single inch of the painting is hard, inorganic, man-made things, rope and a bell or something. And then the only thing that jumps out against this hardscape is the twinkling stars and my man's eyes. And like these are like the brightest values of the whole painting, is the white that you find in these stars and then the white in the reflection of his eyes. They're brighter than any other thing on the whole page. And so it creates this kind of mystical feel between the night starry sky. It's actually, I guess it's supposed to be before dawn, just before dawn. So it's the late or early morning night sky, and the twinkling stars and the moonlight off of his face and the twinkling in the eyes. And there's something created in the gaps of all this man-made concrete jungle or whatever. There's some kind of dynamic going on here between the night sky and his expression in the eyes, being the only organic elements in the painting. Like literally every other pixel of the painting is some man-made thing. Man-made buildings back here. You can't make out any trees or any mountains. Nothing. It's just architecture, paper, books, and then the only organic elements is the human animal and the universe that we live in. Despite all of our big buildings and inventions, there's this reality that cuts beyond all of that. It doesn't matter if he was sitting out in Antarctica making these observations, or sitting in a modern house that we know today making these observations, or that he's sitting back here in the 1600s, or what was it, the 1500s. But the point is there's this naturalistic experience happening here that only involves uh, the night sky and the animal. We are just animals in this creation, and a lot of existence is very confusing to humans. We're always trying to make sense of our creation and our condition, and this is a universal human feeling that's kind of united all of us across cultures going all the way back in time. I think all of us have had the experience of just spacing out at the night sky, watching the stars when we're camping, or if we got a good view on top of a mountain or something. This is just the most natural human thing that speaks to all of us, that we can all relate to this feeling. And he is going a step deeper. Rather than just having that feeling, he is willing to pursue it and completely allow himself to be taken by these intuitions and by these feelings and by the natural human curiosity. And he's allowing himself to fully be taken by that and to see where it leads without judgment, with an open mind, like just in search of knowledge that's not guarded by a church, in search of a knowledge that can be known just by directly from the human animal observing this naturalistic universe that we're part of, which to me is amazing. This is the same life philosophy I live with today in 2025. Is I really value science. I consider myself a naturalist. I think everything that there is to be known about the universe is only learned through studying the universe. In other words, it's not going to come from prayer. It's not going to come from the Bible. It's not going to come any other place other than by doing scientific research. I don't think that we know all there is to know. I think science, the amazing thing about science is it shows how much we don't know. And every single day of scientific progress is really opening our eyes further, not about how much we're figuring out, but about like every new discovery is opening our eyes to how much we don't actually know about anything. And it's humbling. And to me, that's where the entire miracle of being alive comes from, is staring that mystery in the face and with acceptance and accepting it. And that creates so much value in being alive and having human experience, because it's not just God, it's not just the answer written in some book. It's way more mysterious and beautiful than that. And that's kind of my personal life philosophy of naturalism. And Copernicus here is clearly an OG naturalist. This is what naturalism in action looks like. The outfit, by the way, I love. I would totally rock this today. He's got a heavy fur-lined cloak. I don't know what kind of animal that is. Probably an elk. Heavy fur-lined winter cloak and some handmade shoes and the stockings. I really love this outfit. I would totally wear this out on my ranch. Present day. The art itself, just the quality of painting itself, is to me exquisite. Look at the fire coming out of this lantern here, just this super ornate lamp. This is so cool. I don't know if that would be made out of lead and tin, probably. Probably hand-shaped tin, I'm guessing. Hammered tin lantern. Like, I've never seen anything like that. And the lighting is so good, shining the flame off of every correct angle of this hand-carved wood, and casting the shadows across the patio here. And the flame showing up behind him here on the board and still getting true to life orange glow, even in the black shadow. Really like that. And the quality of his skin color, you can tell that it's a really bright moon that's out, because it's so bright that the moon's casting a shadow. Like, you can see his thumb shadow right there. And the shadows on his neck from his face. And there's several versions of this artwork online. Like, this is the best version that I could find in terms of resolution and stuff, but there's a lot of different representations of these colors. This is my favorite one in terms of the digital copies of this painting I can find online. I like these colors the most. But I would love to see it in person to see what these actual colors are. But I feel like his skin color is like fully illuminated by moonlight, and it really well communicates that. And the state of the observatory tower up here communicates to me that this was not just a one-night thing where he went out here one night to make these observations, like the dusty ancient stack of books and the different instruments. And I would love someone who's educated on ancient Polish science technology to educate me on what these things are. It looks like a weight and some ropes and a ring. And I'm guessing you probably like pull on that rope somehow to adjust the astrolabe and to lock it into position. I'm just totally making a guess. And then this rudder type thing, I also don't know what this is. I would love it if someone can tell me what this is. Looks like some kind of yoke, some kind of rudder. And it's chained up and you probably lock it into place. So I think this is related to this astrolabe and dialing in the position, but I'm not sure. It could be completely unrelated. It could be like part of a bell tower to ring a bell or something. Even though it's an oil painting, we get even the level of detail, Matejko, even like we get the wood grain. Like he could have easily just brushed that whole thing as solid brown and it wouldn't have impacted the painting at all, but he like literally put in the grain of the wood, which is amazing. Looks like he's got different protractor devices. He's holding some kind of protractor. And you can just make out kind of these diagrams of like orbits and stuff. And here again, the detail in the wood, like he's even getting the split, natural split of the wood and every little shape of the hand carved and projecting the shape of the hand shadow across the shape of this banister or whatever it is. Just simply an absolutely exquisite painting. I love everything about this painting. The art style, the clothing style, the architectural style, the moment it's depicting, the historical significance of the moment it's depicting, the science significance, the composition, the colors. Like I can't praise this painting enough, and I hope to see it one day. I have a deep found fear of flying in airplanes, so I've never made it to Europe yet as a 41-year-old man. But I do hope to find a way to see this one day and to get to Europe and see this in person. It said it's 120 inches or whatever across, so this would be epic to stand in front of and just appreciate it for a while. And I bet it would be so much more impactful than just looking on the digital screen. And I can tell this scan is not even that great of quality. Look at all, you can see a lot of noise in the scan. You can see a lot of RGB noise in the sky here and compression. So if I don't ever make it there, I would settle for just an extremely high resolution, way higher resolution than this scan or photo. And just this moment, yeah, just living in the moment and being at one, communing with nature and not giving a shit who is judging you for being crazy or sitting up on the rooftop. Just knowing exactly why you're doing what you're doing and not caring about being judged for it, even in the face of persecution, is just all incredible, man. So there you have it. Jan Matejko, Astronomer Copernicus from 1873, Polish painter, displayed in Poland. I hope you enjoyed this, and you can let me know if you got anything to add to your own reactions to this painting, or if you like this and this is way different than the type of stuff I normally do, but hit the subscribe anyways. And I do a lot of like vlogs and I normally do vlogs, and when I do science stuff, it's usually about computer programming, not this type of stuff, but I will do more content along these kind of lines, but this is kind of the first time I've done a video like this. So if you're here just for art critique, you're not going to get that on my channel all the time, but why don't you smash the subscribe anyway if you enjoyed your time with me today, and give me a chance in the future. You can always unsubscribe if I post something you don't like. It's not a big deal. Smash the like, and thanks for stopping by. Have a good night, guys.